welcome back to Dimitra's Dishes. So today I'm going to bring to you a very popular dessert that's made all over Greece during very special occasions. It's known as diples, and it's been recommended quite a few times on this channel and as well as on my Facebook page. So I'm going to teach you how to make it. It's another one of those fried desserts that's dipped in lots of honey, and I don't know about you, but I've never met a fried dough that I haven't liked yet, so I'm pretty sure I really haven't met anyone who doesn't like fried dough. But this one is one definitely to keep in your recipe repertoire. We make it in Greece on all special occasions. It's made for like weddings, engagement parties, Christmas, all different holidays. So it's delicious. The ingredients are basic, so we're going to go over them and then we're going to start making it, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to put together. Now, for the dough, which we're going to begin making, we're going to need some flour, baking powder, and salt. And don't worry about the measurements. I always post the link in the description box down below, and it takes you directly to my website where everything is written out in exact measurements. So for the dough, we're going to need the flour, baking powder, and salt. We're going to need some eggs. We're going to use the orange zest and orange juice. And yeah, pretty much that's all for the dough. We're going to begin making that in a minute. And then we're going to make a syrup for this. So the syrup is going to consist of Greek honey, a little bit of sugar, some orange juice, and water. Now, it's really important that you use really high quality honey for this. I'm going to post the link in the description box below where you can get Greek honey online. Really, there's no substitute for it. I've made it using clover honey and I didn't really like it too much. Greek honey has like a thyme, woodsy flavor. It's just so good. It's almost like, it's like caramel. That's how good it is. So make sure you get it for this recipe. And then we're going to need some oil for frying. A really good, you want to use a flavorless clear oil like a canola oil or something like that. Now we're going to get started by making the ingredients, and I'm going to use my tabletop mixer right here. Now you can do this all by hand. It's just going to take a little bit more work, but I have my dough hook attached, and I'm going to start by mixing my eggs, my juice, which, you know what, I should juice the oranges first. But before I do that, I'm going to use the zest. So before you juice, always zest the orange. Definitely cannot zest once it's juiced. So to my mixer, I've added the eggs, a little bit of like about a tablespoon of sugar, about 2 tablespoons or so of oil, and I'm just going to mix it just a little bit until it's combined. I'm just going to go in here with my whisk and do it just like that. And I've also whisked my dry ingredients with the orange zest, and I'm going to add them to my wet ingredients, and I'm going to let this mix with the dough hook until it's nice and smooth. So what we're going to do is just knead it just a few more seconds here on the board until it's gotten completely smooth. And that literally just takes a few seconds, just a few turns with a little bit of flour. We're going to form it into a ball. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and grab some plastic wrap. I'm going to wrap this in plastic wrap, and it needs to really chill out for a little bit. Just sit here and rest about 15 minutes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to roll it out into nice strips that are going to be ready to fry. Okay, so the dough has been resting for, you know, at least 15 minutes. And now what we're going to do is we're going to roll it out. You can do it by hand if you really want with a rolling pin, but it's just going to take a long time because this dough has to be super, super thin. So what I have here is an attachment to my KitchenAid mixer. You can get one that's a hand crank also. Basically what it is, it's a pasta dough maker or roller, I don't know, whatever you call it. But I'll put the link for this one in the description box down below. It's really not that expensive, and it's totally worth having. Not only for when you're making this recipe, but if you want to make homemade pasta or something like that, it's wonderful. It makes life so much easy. And if you have a KitchenAid blender like I do, it attaches simply and easily, and then you could use both hands to do this job. So I'm just going to flour my machine right here. And then I'm also going to dust some flour over my dough because I want to make sure that it's not going to stick right here. You don't want it to be too dry, but you definitely don't want it to stick in the machine. So I'm just going to cut this into half first, and then we'll work one portion at a time, feeding it through the machine. First I have it on a wide setting, and then I'm going to thin it, I'm going to close it in and make it thinner and thinner as the dough gets worked through the machine. Perfect. So this is what you want. You want the dough to be very, very nice and thin. I'm going to continue to roll out all of the rest of the pieces until we have long strips just like this at a beautiful thickness, just the way it is. So I'm done rolling all of my dough out. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strips, but it'll vary depending on how small you you cut your pieces of dough. You're going to have to sometimes constantly dust your dough roller out with some flour, your pasta roller with some flour, because sometimes it might get stuck, and you're going to have to dust some flour over your dough as you're rolling it through there. But otherwise, it's actually kind of stress relieving, and it's fun to do this part. Now, you can fry these in many, many different shapes. I'm going to teach you two. I'm going to teach you the classic roll, because a diple really is a roll. So we're going to roll it. That takes a little bit more practice, as you're going to see me do it with a fork, or you can do beautiful like bows. And I think bows are pretty, and then they're also simple. But I'm going to get this area ready so that way we can start frying these, and then we'll be that much closer to eating them. Okay, so now we have our oil coming up to temperature. If you have if you have an oil thermometer, it needs to be at about 360 to 375 degrees, somewhere around there. If not, I'll show you a cool little trick in just a few minutes. Basically what you do is you take a wooden spoon and you drop it in the oil, and if it bubbles up, it's ready. But you don't even have to do that. You can just take a little piece of dough and put it in there, and if it rises to the top, it's ready. While we're waiting for that, we're going to get started on our honey syrup. And what we're going to do is, the honey syrup is really just a few ingredients. It's honey, sugar, water, and just a little bit of orange juice to kind of keep it from crystallizing. We're going to cook the sugar and the water first, just until it comes to a boil and the sugar dissolves, and then we're going to add the honey, because if we were to add the honey now, it kind of ruins the flavor. So let's get the heat on underneath there. I have my sugar, I'll put my water in there, and just let that dissolve and cook through, and then we're going to add the honey and the orange. Now, my oil thermometer says 350 degrees. Let's do the test. You just take your wooden spoon or a wooden skewer, you drop it in the oil, and the bubbles are going to bubble up. That's one way. And it's going to continue to heat more as, you know, it's cooking. Or you can take a little strip of dough and pop it in there. And when it rises up, that's how you know your oil is done, just like that. Now, I have a tray here that's lined with paper towel, because you want to make sure you drain as much as the oil off that's going to fry on these as possible. So have a plate or a pan or a tray, whatever, lined with some paper. Now, you can totally fry these up in strips, just like that. It'll be really simple, and then you kind of layer them up in a nice pedestal tray. It'll look really pretty. Or we're going to make little bows and rolls in just a moment. You're looking for a golden color, and that's how you know that they're going to be done. Now, my syrup is looking like it's getting there as well. Begin by making the bow shape. I'm going to cut this into strips. And then you take the strip and you just tie a little knot, just like that. And you form little bows. And it's up to you how big or how small you want these to be. Now you can start small, and then once you fry them up, obviously they're going to fluff up a little bit. And then if you want to make them bigger, go ahead and make them bigger. We'll do some big, some small. Just like so. Okay, before we move on to this, I'm going to turn the heat off from underneath my syrup. I'm going to add about a half a cup of this delicious honey, and you'll see how beautiful and thick it is. I'm totally eyeballing this. You could definitely measure, but a little extra honey never killed nobody. And then I'm going to put a little bit of orange juice. You can use lemon juice if you want, but since we have orange in the dough, I felt like orange would be nice in the syrup as well. And I'm just going to leave it alone over here, give it a nice stir until the honey melts into the syrup, and just leave this syrup to hang out over here on the side, and it'll be ready to dip our diples in when they're done frying. So we're just going to drop these in here, these beautiful little bows. They're just going to take not even a minute on each side. As soon as they become bubbly and golden, they're going to be ready. So make sure you take them out in time so that way they don't burn. This step moves really, really quickly. And you're going to see that they're going to form those beautiful bubbles, and that's from the baking powder that's in here. This is the color you're looking for. You're looking for that beautiful golden brown color. So that's how we make the bow-shaped ones. And as you see, we have some big ones right here. And then we also have some smaller ones. The big ones look really pretty, actually. So it's up to you. It also depends on how much you're making, how many people you're making for. If you want to make more, then obviously make them smaller. This is the easy kind of beginner's dipla to make, okay, this shape. Now, the other one, the one that's the very traditional rollover, turnover style, however you want to call it, that takes a little bit more practice, and that you can only make one by one. So I'm going to cut this strip right here in half. Okay, so if you have a little scalloped edge decorative pizza cutter or a little dough cutter, you can use that, and it'll make a nice decorative border on these rolls. That would be nice too, but I didn't have one, so I'm just making them plain. I'm going to pop this in my oil, flip it over, and then I'm just going to begin rolling it. Just like that. Okay. So now, once these are all fried up, it's up to you now. Do you want to make the rolls? You'll get better at them as you go. But if this is your first time making them, I recommend that you make all different sizes in the bows. It's just much easier. You can get your kids or your friends to help you form the bows while you're dropping them in the oil. But otherwise, go ahead and make these. It gets easier and easier as you do it. You can make this step about even up to a week ahead of time before you're serving them. And then you want to dip them in the syrup the day that you're serving them. One of the two things has to be hot and the other one has to be cooled down. So these if these are at room temperature, you want your syrup to be hot. Otherwise, if these are hot, you want your syrup to have cooled down, right? That way it'll keep them nice and crispy, and then they'll absorb just the right amount of syrup. And I don't know, there's no such thing as too much syrup, but they won't get soggy. So now what you want to do, these have cooled down, so I'm going to plop these into my honey syrup. And I'm going to do this until they're all step by step, just until they absorb as much honey syrup as you want them to. I'm going to plop them in here and then get them all nice and syrupy, and then we're going to be ready to eat them. Okay, now the final touch that you want to put on these is sprinkle with a generous amount of ground cinnamon. And then I have some finely ground walnuts here. Just garnish it with some walnuts. Just like that, the diples are ready. I cannot wait to take a bite of these. They smell just incredible. Honey and cinnamon together is just really, really I just can't resist it. I'm gonna take a bite of this small one. It won't make me feel so bad. Okay. I'm ready. I can't tell you what a huge difference it makes the kind of honey you use. Make sure you use Greek honey. If you find, most of the Greek honey is from Crete, which is where I'm from, kind of biased, but it's really true. It's the best honey on the planet. You'll definitely taste the difference. Make sure you give this a try. Can you hear the crunch? These are delicious. They're to die for. Make it a yearly tradition to make these with your kids. It's a lot of fun to roll these up and make different shapes. Leave me a comment down below. The link is always going to be in the description box down below underneath this video. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what other shapes you guys make these in. Give me a thumbs up. Show me some love, you guys. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Just hit the button. It's free. Let me know what you think about these. I will see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.